What is good, guys? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to my YouTube, and we are back for another vlog. I think this is the 4th week in a row I've been consistent. So today is actually Sunday, it's back in July, I think it's the 28th today. Could be totally wrong with that. I do know, however, that Mark is 6 days out from his first show of the year. So he will be using the camera and I will be going back to vlogging on my old trusty phone. So I do apologize if the quality is not like the best in the world, but the main thing is that we're still documenting this and I'll not be consistent because I don't have the camera. This is the whole point of it. I'm holding myself accountable and I'm just trying to think of updates this week. So I've just checked in this morning. I will obviously drop you over probably a little bit of an update if anything changes with this week, but to be honest with you, I haven't really had any changes to like my plans in quite some time. I've literally just been running like sort of similar setup with food and training and all of that because realistically in this phase, there's really not too much chopping and changing to be done. And that's something that I think I want to cover a bit more in this video is literally just your mentality and your expectations around either being in a maintenance phase or even being in a surplus or a building phase or an off-season setting, because that obviously is very, very different to being in a dieting phase or even in a reverse. So, I think that there is a certain type of mentality you need to have where you have to think more long-term than short-term, but I will get to that down the line. I might pop up a couple videos or pictures of my check-in this morning, but honestly, nothing really that much has changed. One thing is that I am up on the scale a little bit more over these past few days. I think that the main reason why that is because I've been pushing my training performance a little bit more recently, especially with lower body work. So I feel like that has just led to a bit more inflammation. And that would sort of make up for that, given that there has really been no major changes except for the addition of L-carnitine this past week, just to help with the mobilization of fatty acids, mitochondrial function, and it does actually have a little bit of an effect on recovery and training performance. So that's the only real addition this past week, which probably does factor into body weight being up a little bit as well, and maybe the byproduct of training being a little bit better too. So at the end of the day, body weight is body weight. It's not the end of the world. Like, we know that this fluctuates for so many different reasons, especially as a female. Something to always know is that body weight fluctuations totally normal. Said, Mark is now 6 days out, so I'm sure that I will start to be doing a few more jobs for him this week when it comes to like the process of getting his skin ready for tanning, like shaving, all of that. The tanning itself in the lead shows, obviously there'll be some base coat sort of tan going on, and yeah, I'll probably document a little bit of that process as well, just in case you're interested, because it probably will be a slightly different week this week in comparison to normal. And then obviously we've got a few weeks back to back almost of shows now going forward throughout the rest of July. And what else do I need to do today? I've got a client set up to do from one of the girls that was on the program with me a few weeks ago. She's actually coming back because she had a great experience then. So after a little break, she's now going to come back to work with me on my full coaching. And with that being said, if coaching is something you are thinking that you might be interested in, please don't hesitate to drop me a DM on my Instagram, which is linked in the description. I do have coaching spaces open at the moment for lifestyle, prep, and competitive coaching going forward into the second half of the year. So if you are looking to level up your physique, your mindset, and just take things to that next level for yourself, if you feel like you need that bit extra accountability, you need to actually have plans in place so that you're not second guessing yourself all the time, because I know how frustrating that is. You just feel like you're spinning your wheels, just don't really know if you're doing the right things or not, or you'd be able to stick to things. So I can definitely help you with that. So if you are interested in coaching or want to find out a little bit more about how that works, just drop me a DM or inquire through the link in my bio on Instagram. Hello. I also just thought I would show you how I do my veg. So at the moment, I just like to have a bit of a medley of veg because I just want a bit more variety really. And at the minute, I'm not on like a prep for a bodybuilding show or anything like that, so I do have a bit more flexibility, let's say, with which veg I use, and it's really not that deep. Like, I'm not going to necessarily weigh each component of my veg, like when I'm not like deeper into a competition prep, when I need to be that little bit more accurate. So what I do is I cut up a few different sorts of veg. So I have peppers, courgette, broccoli. Sometimes I do actually put in some mushrooms as well. Depends on how much I can actually be asked to buy from the shop. But I literally just weigh out 450 grams. I literally just cut it all up. I don't weigh each specific component. Just chop it all up, put it 450 grams total into like a glass Tupperware. And I use another glass Tupperware to cover it. And then what I'll do is I will put this into the microwave for around 6.5 minutes. Oh God, almost fell over. I just noticed how filthy the scales were there, so I just gave those a little bit of a clean for my pre rice this morning. But one really important thing when it comes to staying on plan is just preparation. I'm sure we've all heard, if you fail to prepare, you sort of prepare to fail. And when it comes to food, the last thing you need is these complicated things that take ages for you to make, because let's be honest, we're all busy here. Especially if you're working, 9 to 5, you're self-employed, no matter what, the chances are that you probably have other things to do that are really important. And your meal prep is really important, but it doesn't need to take ages. So I think that people set themselves up for failure when you save a bunch of these really complicated recipes on your Instagram in hopes that you're going to be able to put all these things together. But then realistically, the quicker, the easier something is to prepare and make, and the more realistic that is then for your lifestyle, it's so much more likely you're going to be able to stay on track, and it's going to be realistic for you to stay on track as well. So you don't need to have anything complicated. I've literally just put my next 3 days worth of veg in the microwave for 6.5 minutes, and that's just going to be done. So don't even have to think about that then. And you don't need to make things harder for yourself than what they need to be. So simplicity is key. Find little things that work for you that are most efficient, and you will set yourself up so much better to have a consistent run of days or weeks going forward when it comes to actually chasing your fitness goals. This has got to be one of the best sounds. That was an absolute fail. If you ever tried to do this with one hand, it's failing astronomically. There we go, guys. We got it open eventually. Rest day treat, white monster, and I've just spilled it everywhere. That's good. I do love a little monster on some rest days just as a little treat. Now, I don't overkill them because I do feel like for a lot of people, they do have a good few ingredients and they don't always sit great on your gut. So just be aware of that. If you're having a lot of sugar-free, sort of calorie-free drinks that are carbonated, they sometimes can give you a bit of a funny tummy. So if you're seeing any digestive issues, then definitely consider these as a potential culprit. So like with anything, enjoy them in moderation, but nothing in excess is probably good. But I did actually get a 9-pack of these on Amazon, which I think worked out a little bit cheaper. Honestly, when it comes to things like this, I practically buy everything off Amazon, to be honest. I'm surprised they don't give me a discount code by now. But at the same time, they're also really handy to pick up from there, because then you don't actually have to carry a big case to your car or back it. You get the idea. And also, the last time I tried to get Monster at the shop, they actually asked me for my ID, which I didn't have because, I'm almost 30. So I'll take it as a compliment. The Asian genes are coming in handy, and I'm just going to pretend I'm going to literally be young for the rest of my life. So we are set and ready to go. I just wanted to do a quick walkthrough video. Well, I say quick, it's probably going to be about 20 minutes long, but just a quick walkthrough video to talk you through what I have out for you. Not to mention just navigate you through your new sheets, because obviously I know that it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes when you get sheets through and there's just a lot of information there. So hopefully you'll feel a little less overwhelmed once you've gone through this whole video. Really get the ball rolling for the first few weeks of our journey together, which I'm absolutely buzzing for. Oh my God, my arm. So, something I'm very intrigued about is this new ESN designer rice pudding that Mark got for his peak week. I I haven't tried any yet. I'm going to ask very, very nicely if I can try it. But I am intrigued because I've actually not tried this. I've only ever used cream of rice, which, to be honest, I do really enjoy cream of rice, but I've heard that this is pretty good texture-wise. I've done check-ins. I've done a little bit of content for this morning as well. I need to catch up on some client messages. I also have to do another set of check-in pictures for Mark at 11. I'm training today as well. I feel like I'm like bending down like this. It's just because my camera is at the most awkward angle. It's just like too low for me to be stood like this, but also too high for me to like sit down. I have got upper body stay. It is very hot in the gym at the moment, I will say, but I thrive off of it. I'm such like a warm weather person. Like nothing is worse to me than when it's like cold out and I'm like, oh, awful. Because it just feels like I just cannot get warm across the entire session. So I just spend the entire session just continually being too cold. So I literally feel like I can go in at the moment, my joints, everything feels fantastic, and I can pretty much crack on straight away. So it doesn't bother me that it's a little bit hot. And this is the upper day outfit. I have this little purple Honor Active set. To be honest, a lot of their stuff is fairly samey, but you know, when you find something that fits pretty well, you feel pretty good in, like I'm a creature of habit anyway, so you just stick with the same thing. But I just feel like at the minute, especially with it being hot out, you just want to wear things that you feel really comfortable in and that aren't like super, super tight. And obviously a lot of my clothes at the moment, given that I'm sat a little bit on the heavier end, they are feeling pretty tight. So I was just like, you know what? We don't try and fit ourselves into our clothes. We just buy our clothes to fit us. And I think that that's a really important part of like being in the building phase as well, is because I always find that I have like two, sometimes like three different wardrobes, like for when I'm in a push-up or building, I'm in a diet, or I'm somewhere in between, because I just feel like I need multiple different wardrobes to fit me at certain points, like in my journey, or depending on what I'm doing at the time or the goals at the time. Yeah, nice. Already looks quite a lot different, to be honest. Just thought I would do a little chit chat over some clips from my upper session the other day, just to break this video up a touch. But like I mentioned earlier, at this point, I have had no changes to my plan really over the past 8 weeks. No changes to my food, no changes to my training, no changes to my steps or my cardio. And one thing that I want to make very clear is just because you might not need to make, or your coach doesn't need to make changes or hasn't made changes to your programming, doesn't mean that you're not making progress, because sometimes the progress is actually happening whilst you're just being consistent with what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you're still going in, you're training hard, you're following the plan, you're building consistency. And if that is what is seeing you step forward, you don't need to change something that's not actually broken. So when you're in a maintenance phase, or if you're in a push-up phase, you cannot expect to see or have changes to your plan every week or every 2 weeks. The likelihood is that you're going to be going weeks and weeks and weeks with no changes made at all. But that doesn't mean that that's you not making progress because you're not having changes. Often, the setup that you have at that point is doing exactly what it needs to do, and you have to just trust in that process. Dieting is so rewarding for so many people because there are changes made more often, more frequently. You're seeing change to your physique more often, more frequently, and it gives you something a bit more tangible to chase, and it keeps things a bit more quote unquote interesting across that phase. Whereas you have to be very, very good at literally just knuckling down with the routine that you have set in a building phase or in a maintenance phase, because that is what is going to be literally 98% of the time. I think this is where people often start to feel a little bit lost or a bit demotivated because they're not having those changes. They feel like they're not seeing even changes in their physique on a week-to-week basis, other than, especially as a female, often the deeper you get into like an off-season setting, you just feel like you're just gaining more body fat, and you question it a lot if you're actually gaining any muscle at all, because we tend to look very different in a building phase versus when we're very, very lean. So that's already an adjustment in itself. But one thing that I think is so important is you need to focus more on your training, your performance, what you're doing in the gym, and less on actually how you look, because you're not going to be chasing, yourself getting leaner every week. You're not going to be seeing scale weight coming down every week. You're not going to be seeing bi-weekly changes to your plan. It just won't happen like that. And you have to, that's the skill of being in a building phase. You have to be okay with the monotonous, mundane, day-to-day routine and love that for what it is, because that is often where you see a lot of progress from a health perspective or even from a building muscle perspective. Okay guys, just wanted to finish off the vlog on one little topic, because I was actually on a consult call the other day with a lovely lady who was on the call with me because she really wanted to level up in every aspect, like her lifestyle, her habits, her physique, everything. And we were discussing what she was already doing and essentially what she would then need to do to get ultimately where she wanted to be. So I think a lot of that was her talking about her habits currently, and she was doing a lot of the right things. It was just to achieve that next level. I always believe that, okay, to achieve things that you haven't yet achieved, you'll probably have to do things to a standard at which you haven't yet done, because that next level just requires a little bit more from you, a little bit more adherence, a little bit more consistency, a little bit more commitment, determination. And I think a lot of that boils down to people wanting, I want to say, they want to have their cake and eat it a little bit. They want to achieve these goals and they want to have all the balance in the world. But often where you're currently at now is you making quite easy choices each day, like not necessarily doing the bad things, because essentially like a lot of the things you're doing are probably the right things to do, but it's a different standard required to get you to achieve that next level. So that's just something that you need to keep in mind. So when it comes to leveling up your goals, maybe you just need to level up your adherence. You have to really think about maybe compromising on a few off-plan meals across the week. Maybe you just have to make a few more sacrifices. That's the secret of a lot of people that have these really desirable physiques, is that even though they might perceive to have a lot of balance now, there was probably once a time where they compromised on that balance. So they didn't have as much balance to get them to a place where after that, they've then earned that balance to be able to look that way, having achieved this goal physique or how they want to look. And then maintaining that going forward, they can have a lot more balance. So that's the way they live their life now, but that might not necessarily have been like how they lived their life over a period of time before. So just be very aware of that. If you're looking up to people that have this leveled up physique that you would love to accomplish for yourself, you also have to think back and like think, right, but what has that person done at a point in their life, in a season of their life, to be able to accomplish that physique in the first place? Whereas now they might be able to have all the balance in the world. That's often a process that you might need to go through as well, rather than just thinking that these people look incredible and they can have all the balance in the world. I promise you that there was probably a point where they didn't have that, where they really did dial down towards their goals. And that just may be a season in your life where if you want to level up, that's what you're going to have to do as well. So very, very excited whenever I jump on calls like that, because I know that a lot of these women, they're ready to take things up to that next level. And it's not to say that you have to be a hermit or that you can't like have a bit of a life. It just means that across a few weeks, we may just need to just crack on a little bit more accountability, be more dialed in, but they will never look back at those weeks after they've seen those results and regret it. So I'll leave you with that. I'll catch you in the next vlog. So if you did like this video, please like, share, subscribe, comment if there's anything else you want to see. Actually, in the next one, guys, have a lovely day and I'll see you next week.